No.
Thank you. Okay,
6:03 and you're live.
thank you. So the first item tonight on the agenda for the Finance and Human Resource Committee is to call to order. Roll call. I am here. Mark Davies,
Here, sorry.
no worries. Scott Harrington,
Yes.
John Rafter.
Here.
I'd also like to acknowledge Mayor Herzig is here, Katie Botner is here, David Hoteling, Joe Temming, Chief Mancini, Greg Mattice, and Judy Penguin. And Carrie, our city clerk, is also here. With that said, was there any adjustments to our previous minutes that were provided?
None for me.
Seeing and hearing none. Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we're good. We'll accept the minutes as provided. First topic on our agenda is the water and sewer rates. This is the beginning of maybe a larger discussion about revenue streams. If anything, through the 2020 pandemic, we were brought to the brutal reality of what our revenue streams are. And I've had smaller conversations with, I think, Mark and Scott about revenues. John and I, it seems to be a very common theme that he and I pick up on a week to every other week basis of what are new revenue streams. And so I thought first off that we would look at utility fees. One that we have established already is our water and sewer. And so I guess I'll lead the conversation off with, and Ginny, at any point, please interrupt and correct me. But at this point, we do not collect enough revenue within regards to water and or sewer to pay for all of our expenses on an annual basis. And we're on a graduated scale, and I believe we're still working with Waterworth. You and Greg did a presentation in 2020, and you gave us a graduated scale of where we're headed. And I think it was 5 years, we would be to the point where we were, or was it less than 5, that we would collect enough revenue to pay for all of our expenses and put money aside for infrastructure.
I want to say it was about 5. I don't have the presentation right in front of me, but I want to say it was about that.
Yeah. So I also want to bring it to the public's notice that I personally don't have people running into me complaining about their water bill or their water and sewer bill. Again, and Ginny is working hard on this, and hopefully we'll get to the last block is the different ways of being able to pay for our water and sewer fee, and that has moved from an annual basis, one-time payment, to now the customers can or clients can request different payments or push a payment off. And I think eventually we should get to the point where we could have quarterly and then monthly automatic billing, whether that's ACT or credit card. If they choose credit card, then we have to, I believe we're at 3%, right, Jenny? Where we get
about that. It's 2.65%, and it's not our fee; it's the credit card company's fee.
Yeah, agreed. I think most people at this point, they know it's the credit card company. That's how they stay in business. So at 2.65%, if the client or the customer wants to do that, that'd be great. Especially when we educate them. And so this is what I wanted to do, is just educate our general public to understand that for that gallon of water, that comes through your spigot, you're paying a half a penny. And so that's extremely, extremely affordable. And so we need to move forward and get it to where we're to the point where we have enough revenue to cover our expenses. So I would like to kind of open it up in an open discussion to the committees, and please take your mutes off and feel free to join in the conversation. what else can we do with regards to water and sewer to increase our revenue compared to our expenses? Because I think staff-wise, absolutely not. We're at bare bones. Infrastructure, we always need to invest in our infrastructure. So I'm just curious from the committee members what you're thinking we could do to increase our revenue in water and sewer.
One, if I may,
Go ahead, John.
in terms of our comparative rates with other cities like ours, I don't recall where we stand with that. I do recall that we were below many other municipalities. So where do we stand in terms of benchmarks
Okay.
with what other cities charge?
That's a good question. Ginny sent us an email back, I believe it's in November of 2020, and that showed comparative rates to Cooperstown, Norwich, Cobuskill, and some others. And I think we were lower than almost every one of them. I think there was only one municipality that was lower than us, but our neighboring communities, they do pay a higher rate, and that was based on the comparative chart. I believe was based on 37,000 gallons. I believe 37,000 or less.
What was the delta approximately? How much less are we?
I had that pulled up earlier today, John, but sorry I closed that window.
No, we
I'm
might not be.
gonna-
It's just a good.
guess. It was, the delta was probably $100 or less per annum.
What about for the usage per gallon? You were mentioning that to start with.
The way the comparative chart was given to us was based on your annum. So you could just take that amount and divide it by, well, 37,000 gallons, and then you would get the cost factor. And that's how we do it here, right? So that's how I figured out how we were less than a penny, half a penny actually. Mark or Scott, any open thoughts on this?
I got a lot of thoughts. I just don't know how popular they'd be. One is, I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought Greg once was talking about looking at different meter sizes being charged a different rate. And so that would, so your bigger meters would be charged a different rate and then a different. Greg, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but say like we had a 1-inch main, they get the flat rate's $200, and after that it was like whatever. I can't remember what the flat rate was. Do I remember that sort of right?
Go ahead, Jenny.
Thank you. Can I just jump in? As we presented last budget season, Greg and I are going to be working with the Water With program, and we're going to look at different scenarios. We may base it on meter size and the valve size and things like that. We need to do a lot of different scenarios and look to see what would be the best recommendation to bring to the council as far as a rate structure restructure. The message that we got from council during the budget process was to go slow and steady and not have a huge increase all of a sudden on the residents, because it would just be too large of an impact. I mean, if you want a 50% rate increase to bring us to where we're going to be in the next 3 or 4 years, we can do that. But it was recommended that that would not be fair to the resident. So also with expanding our customer base, for example, the lofts on Dietz, it's going to bring in more customers. The development of a Market Street hopefully will bring in more customers. The development of other resident housing units throughout the city will bring in more customers. So not just increasing the rates on the current customers that we have, but expanding the customer base will be a very good source of bringing in more revenues for the water and sewer funds. So in looking at, and we talked about this before, economic development, but Greg and I need some time to look at different scenarios as far as having a base fee because of the hookup to the system, and that base fee would be based on your meter size versus a usage fee. Because it will make the system much more simple with billing if we can structure it in that manner. I don't know if that helps answer your questions.
Yeah, Ginny, don't forget also the rail yard has the potential for a commercial development, which would use a considerable amount of water, and we have plenty of water. We're happy to find customers for it. But, you know, almost all of our economic woes, the solution to them is more people, more businesses, more development. I mean, that's what we're lacking. So that's what we've been working on for the last 5-6 years. We're making some progress, but that's what we have to continue to do for the next, for the foreseeable future. That's the answer to all of our economic woes.
Appreciate all those suggestions so far. Mark or Scott, Scott, did you want more clarification on that, or?
No, I mean, maybe another idea, as unpopular to be, is let's not extend our water and sewer beyond our city boundaries right now until we start getting ourselves a little better off with our infrastructure. I mean, it's a double-edged sword to say something like that, but, you know, I think, you know, that's the thing we got to worry about if we're going to start putting more strain on our infrastructure by going outside the city boundaries to put a hold on it for a little bit until we start getting ourselves caught up might be a thing to look at.
I think our neighbors have already put in a water system, so they've taken care of their own infrastructure. But
well, they're talking about out on the east end too, where Brooks Barbecue and stuff want to try to hook into us, and you know, and Southside is they put in their own water, but you know, I'm just trying to, you know,
all right,
it's just
open
stuff to think about.
suggestions. That's what I asked for, was open suggestions. So, Mark, did you have anything?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to, my thinking and my recollection, if I could sum this up, is that, and I think your opening question to Jenny kind of put it into context, is that we're on about a 5-year plan here where we're going to be able to, in 5 years with the slow and steady growth, get our sewer and water revenues to the point where we are able to create reserves. Have I captured that correctly, Jenny?
Yeah.
So in my mind, what you're asking us, Len, is what ways do we speed up that timeline? And I guess there's the only obvious ways that we speed up that timeline are by transferring greater tax or cost to the water or sewer back to the taxpayers. And I think that's inconsistent with what we were thinking was the slow and steady method. So I guess I'd rather continue to try to support the slow and steady growth by using, you know, other funds to help support the sewer and water until we reach that kind of net revenue neutral, revenue positive place 5 years from now. That's my own personal thinking. I guess you know, having heard from a number of constituents that felt that the pinch of our increases this year, I'm hesitant to try to increase them further next year, and I'm willing to you know, play out this plan that we've developed, or that Jenny and Greg, to be quite accurate, have developed, which seemed to make sense when it was presented to us, to play out that plan and let 5 years take place, and then at that point we can begin to have revenue, you know, positive generation out of our sewer and water. That's my own thinking.
Right.
Just a quick aside, and I don't know if this, I don't even want to put it on the table, but I'm just going to put it out there. If we were ever to go down a path of thinking about privatizing our water and sewer, I would not be in support of that at all. I think that was one of our greatest resources, that we have kind of control of our water and sewer, and it is one of our greatest resources that we have, you know, fantastic water system that we all of us, this entire city, owns and maintains. And so that would certainly be a non-starter for me in terms of any conversations in the future.
completely agree with that. I think the city should hold on to that public utility for forever. I would
Right.
never want to privatize that either. But probably one aspect of this that I didn't release the information, I specifically did that, is that the current system that we have right now, Mark, is our large volume users only pay 1/100th of a penny more than the residents. So by no means am I looking to increase the residents that are typically 37,000 or even as much as 75,000 gallons. I'm looking at the large volume users that they only pay 1/100th of a penny more than us. And so the infrastructure that we currently keep in place is because of that need. And it would be probably more advantageous if we saw a bit of a spread difference on the upper end more than going after the lower end. And I think that's maybe, and I don't know, I'm speaking for Scott, but he was advocating not doing the 5% where the rest of us said, yes, we have to do something. And that's where I was trying to say, let's look at the beyond the residents, their levels, and get up into the large volume users. Because honestly, 1/100th of a penny more isn't really the fair or equitable share of that. And I'm hopeful that that's what Waterworth will do. But in the presentation, I just don't remember capturing that. And I could be dead wrong on that. So I just wanted to start the conversation. This is more about having a larger conversation in the weeks and months to come, is different revenue streams. And so I agree that if we bring more people in commercial property, then our revenue streams will look better. They'll be bigger. And but I'm also looking at other utility fees, and Jenny and I, we've talked about this a couple times, is that there's a franchise fee, there's a telecommunication fee that's already in place. I don't know if we have the legal ability to play with those, but these are conversations I'd like to have. We maintain a lot of roads and sidewalks. Our stormwater system costs us a lot of money every year, and yet, we don't have a fee system for that. I don't want to get to the point where we're charging anyone for rainwater, but out in the Midwest, they get charged a fee for rainwater because of the stormwater drain systems that are put in place. But this is what I was trying to do, is have an initial conversation with this committee saying, hey, let's all start putting on our thinking caps, and what are some revenue streams that we can start looking at and exploring in the weeks and months to come here in 21.
Len, are we just going to be talking about water, or when you said throw out different ideas for revenue streams tonight, to discuss different revenue streams tonight?
So Scott, what I wanted to do is, and I don't want to tie up the committee's time a lot tonight, is just have that initial conversation. My initial suggestion was water and sewer, and let's take a look at that. But if any of the committee members have something, and I know each one of you, because I've had the conversation with you, each one of you have different ideas for revenue streams. Let's start working on that in the weeks and months to come in 21.
Well, is it possible? I know, John, I'm probably going to steal your thunder. You're probably going to bring this up later because you and I had the phone conversation. I know Mark and I talked about it. Can we schedule another finance meeting? Like if we meet like once a week or twice within the week before finance or before the common council meeting, where we can do one meeting as the business that has to go in front of the council, and then the other meeting would be to take on such topics as other revenue sources. How can we start positioning the city to prosperity versus being on our heels, being reactive to handle some of this stuff? I just don't think we get enough time with everything that comes forward in one meeting to really discuss and do justice on what we need to do.
I don't know, Ginny, has the city government ever been shifted where the business is dealt that way, where you would have basically one of our meetings per month that would be for business, the city business, and then we would go on to revenue streams or any other topic that the committee at large would want to talk about?
Well, this question is really more for the mayor than myself, but historically, any meetings that wanted to talk about a special subject, the mayor could schedule before a council meeting or call a special meeting for the council members. We normally do that at budget time. And, you know, so if you wanted to consult with the mayor on a schedule, that would be up to his discretion, I believe.
I think that it's usual, I think, for many of our meetings to fill the allotted time with the agenda of what we want to move forward to the council, et cetera. But in terms of the council, actually, whether it be in the committees of the council or in some other mode, to set aside a certain amount of time on an ongoing basis to talk about things like this, because these are conceptual shifts, conceptual shifts actually, that take more time. And I think that we could use that time. It could be beneficial to set aside time, either by the council or ask if the mayor wants to enable that by suggesting it, or the council or subcommittees or committees of the council saying, we need to, let's start with brainstorming what the possibilities are and then trying to put some meat on the bones of those possibilities, rather than postponing it over the course of a year in very fragmented discussions.
Right. Mark, go ahead.
Is there anything to prevent us from having kind of a retreat, just perhaps of this committee, or do public meeting laws require us, if we're a committee and we're meeting, that we have to be public? And I'm just, not that I'm trying to exclude the public in this conversation, but just a longer period of time where we can spend some time brainstorming, putting ideas out there, creating a little bit of a plan. I think a lot of the ideas we'd put forward would need further research, as we've talked about some of the taxes and implications for that. So at least creating some kind of idea or consensus around a direction we want to go in terms of researching and then moving forward. And I would suggest that having a longer period of time that perhaps is a little, benefited by having a casual environment might help that.
Right. And so to answer your point, Mark, no, I would go back to when we were broken up into two groups. We had the odds and the evens when we were discussing the city manager administrator. So public officers law, as long as we're not in the majority, so we have 4 in our committee, we could have that retreat to your suggestion. So we could pick a day and time and have a block of 2-3 hours that we could start openly and casually discussing these ideas. So if the committee is up to something like that, I will send out an email tomorrow to all the committee members and start seeing what your schedule is like in the week to 2 weeks moving forward, so that we can carve out some time that we can sit down and start hashing these ideas out. And then Gary, if I'm incorrect in any of this, Gary, please step forward and let me know.
Incorrect in what way, Len?
That we can't meet as a retreat because we're a committee of 4. I mean, that's the reason why you did it. So we're not the majority of the council, so we could have a retreat.
I believe you could. I'd confirm that with the city attorney, but I believe if it's as 4 council members, if you want to meet to have a workshop, to have a discussion, I believe you would be free to do so, but I'd first get confirmation.
Okay. I guess I'll say to the committee and the mayor is that I will send an email to our city attorney tomorrow and get clarity on that, whether we can have a workshop or a retreat, whatever we're going to term it as, for other revenue streams for the city of Oneonta. Well, thank you everyone on the committee for your suggestions, and I look forward to a time when we can all get together and do this. Is there a preference?
And Jenny, can you confirm that those numbers are correct about 1/100th of a penny. The biggest users get charged 1/100th of a penny more per gallon.
Yes, I'll confirm it, Mayor. I don't want to do it right on the spot, if that's okay, but I will get back and I can confirm it at the next public meeting. And also I'll
Yeah.
email everyone.
'Cause, that doesn't jive with my recollection, but I could be wrong.
And we also have to be thoughtful in the rate structure itself. When you brought this up last time, Len, I did check with the city attorney if we were able to just choose certain levels to change the rates. And I was instructed that we have to have justification of why we would be charging more per gallon at a certain level and less per gallon at the other. And again, that's what Waterworth is all about. Because I think what we need to do is look at cost for maintaining different size meters versus the cost of actually treating the water and transporting it.
Agreed.
So
That's what I've referenced, is that the
Right.
amount of money that we put into our infrastructure is not based on the 37,000 gallon usage.
Right.
It's based on the others.
Right, so let Greg and I finish our work as far as what we think would be a good recommendation to you. And Mayor, I will confirm on the price per gallon for the different levels.
Gary,
Yeah,
to that point, that was based on the numbers that were presented to us last year. I just did the backwards math on it, and that's how I got to that calculation. Because when you start looking at the chart that's been given to us, that's how you get to those numbers. Okay.
Len, I just want to correct something that you said. I never said I was against raising 5%. I was against raising 5% at this particular time in the middle of a pandemic. There's a difference.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to topic B, Personnel Director. Katie, if you would, take over.
So we are requesting, we meaning Charlie Effner, our fleet operations manager, and I are requesting that we fill a budgeted automotive service person job in the central garage. This is, as I mentioned, a budgeted position. It's been open since January when we had an existing mechanic was kind of poached by another department. So in the intervening months, Charlie's been doing everything he can to kind of really do a good gauge of his workflow to see if he could do without the position on a full-time basis. And he's found that he's just not able to keep up, especially going into the summer months where we're going to be, servicing a bunch of vehicles in addition to all the, the lawn mowing equipment and smaller equipment and stuff. He can't keep up with the demand. So that said, we advertised for the job. We found a really good candidate who actually is his name is Todd Trico. He is a downstate person who's looking to relocate to the city. He has a lot of automotive mechanic experience working for another municipality. He's actually in charge of the fleet of police cars for, I believe, the city of New Rochelle. So he had a lot of really good experience that was interesting to Charlie. If you choose to fill this position, it is, as I mentioned, budgeted. The base salary is $31,143. It's a CSEA grade 5 position, and we would be looking for the person to start on April 26th.
Any committee member take objection to moving this up to full council?
No objection.
No objections heard. Move that to full council. Katie, you have the next item also?
I do. So this is probably more of an executive session item, but I wanted to give you a brief overview. So at the last council meeting, you may recall there was one a general municipal law 207C case in which we denied benefits based on a medical and legal opinion. And the council is being asked to consider a settlement in connection with that particular denial. Any other details would really be executive session because we're talking about a particular employee's medical situation and contract negotiations.
So, Carrie, could you put us into another room so that we could talk about direct personnel information with regards to this 207C settlement?
Len, do you mind if Jenny joins us?
I don't mind. Jenny, Ginny, the mayor, and and the committee members, and obviously yourself. Is anyone else needed? Okay. Okay. What happened to Scott? I don't see Scott. Does anybody else see Scott? Because I don't see him.
I don't have him connected to the meeting anymore.
There he is.
There he is.
Sorry, I
Scott?
hit the wrong button. I left the
Just-
meeting.
What'd you do? Go to the wrong.
Yeah, I hit the leave the meeting, not leave the room. Sorry.
Mayor Herzig, are you available?
I am.
I believe you are next on the Transit Hub RFQ discussion.
Okay, this is just a follow-up on an email that I sent out to the entire council regarding next steps with the development of the Market Street property that is currently has the building that is occupied by the building that was owned by the 12 tribes, as well as the renovation of the parking garage. There's no action that we're looking for at this time, but I just wanted to follow up the email by summarizing what is taking place and provide an opportunity for questions. You'll recall we had the last discussion we had with the council on the subject. There was agreed upon by a majority of the council to move forward with an RFP to seek out construction and engineering work in moving forward with building a standalone transit hub, which would occupy about 25% of the 27 Market Street property, as well as a full renovation of the municipal parking garage. In consideration of some of the things that were discussed at that meeting, which was some expressed a concern about are we passing up opportunity for private development, private investment, and in consideration of the fact that our downtown revitalization initiatives, two of the goals were a revitalization of Market Street, as well as using the public money to leverage private investment. In conversation with Greg and Judy and Jenny, the idea was floated about could we simultaneously issue an RFP for the architectural and engineering work for constructing the standalone transit hub, while at the same time looking for proposals from private investors who would look to develop that property, and in doing so, incorporate the transit hub into their development, and even to purchase and develop the transit hub, the parking garage building, to do something that had to be, of course, meet with the city's goals and desires, that would work for the city in a beneficial way. So in order to achieve that, I sought professional advice on this, on how to go forward with such a proposal. And here is what came out of it. It was highly suggested to me that such a complicated effort, while worthwhile and innovative and consistent with our DRI goals, would be a complex issue. And that we would really should look to seek what was called a master plan consultant team that could provide conceptual, architectural, and civil engineering design, environmental review, and permitting strategy, governmental advocacy, grant writing, and overall project coordination on behalf of the city. Such a team, in doing all of these functions, would develop the request for proposals for developers that would go in conjunction with the request for proposals for engineering and construction documents. We would look to have a final deadline of somewhere around the end of October, early November, for the receipt of all proposals. If we do not receive proposals from private developers that are appealing to the city, then we would go ahead with proposals that we receive with the original concept of awarding a contract to an engineering architectural firm to move forward with the design and construction documents for the standalone transit hub. I think this is a good approach. I think it's an innovative approach. I think it supports our goals of downtown revitalization, renovation, revitalization of Market Street, and leveraging private investment. So the RFQ, which is a request for qualifications, has been published. That is looking for this leadership team, this leadership development team, who could guide us through this process of developing the proposal, developing concepts, making contacts with developers, as well as working with state and federal folks on getting additional funds and any other advocacy we need to move forward with such a project. The deadline for receipt of proposals for this consultant leadership team is fairly short. I think it was like a 2-week time frame. So we should have some more information on receipt of proposals fairly soon, which then can be shared with council and decisions made as to whether there is a proposal from a leadership team that is appealing to the council to move forward with. I hope I explained that in a way that didn't confuse you more. This is a complex approach, but it does meet. I think it does satisfy all of our possible objectives, and it does meet some of the concerns that were raised by some of the council members, honestly, in that just moving forward straight with the standalone project was not doing enough to try to leverage the money to increase private development, private investment in the Market Street properties.
Right.
Questions?
Completely agree, Gary. I commend you for moving this project to this point where we're creating a public-private partnership with a future developer and creating more exciting opportunity here in downtown Oneonta. And I look forward to seeing how this project unfolds in the coming weeks and months as we move forward this year. So again, thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We'll let you know more information as it develops.
Okay, appreciate it. Any other committee member questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you again, Mayor. Was there any objection to moving the list of surplus items, give or take, that Ginny had supplied us with up to full council? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move that up, Jenny.
Yep.
Jenny, if you would take over and talk about the material and supply bid.
Okay, well, annually the city goes out to bid. I gave you a detailed list of the different items that are going to be awarded. And it's quite a large bid. It involves many different products, many different vendors. And right now city staff is reviewing them. We don't have a recommendation to present to you tonight, but it will be ready for council next week. And this is done on an annual basis. They're usually 1-year contracts. And I don't know if you want to talk about any of the specific items on it, but you'll see that it's 5 pages worth of supplies.
Is there any committee member that would like to talk about specific items on the bid list?
And also just to add, we did receive 17 responses, so there's quite a few responses for them to analyze. Okay.
I don't I don't see any or hear any objections, Jenny, so I think
Okay.
we're good there.
Thank you. Len, do you mind if I just let you know how we want to update our surplus process?
Sure, no, go ahead.
As you know, right now, when we put something out for surplus, we use publicsurplus.com, and city staff met last week, and we'd like to expand it and use Auction International for more of the larger items. We have had the information that this is a much larger company with a lot more exposure, and we're hoping that if the minimum bid that is set either by Charlie or by Greg is not met, we'll be able to move the item over to Auction International and get more of an audience. There's rules with each one. For example, Auction International won't take anything under $10 or under $50. There's a lot of items, small items that we sell for small petty cash. So we're going to use a combination of both. And it will probably take a motion for council to approve the mayor to sign the contract with Auction International. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
Okay, and then any questions on that? The HVAC bid, that is, we have bid for a 3-year contract for our heating, ventilating, and air conditioning maintenance contracts. We've received 2 bids, or 2 responses to the bids. And again, city staff is analyzing which contractor they would like to meet, and we will be bringing that to council on the 6th also. Once I get decisions from the staff, I will email the committee so everybody is pre-aware before the council meeting. Next, any questions on that? Next topic is budget transfers. I have 2 that I would like you to consider for approving. One is for our shared communication services. Currently, you know that the city's website is being redesigned. The redesign is not completed yet, so Vibrant is still maintaining the city's website. It's $1,000 per month. That was not included in the 2021 budget, thinking that we were not going to be with them at this time, but we're not quite ready to make the transition over. So I'm asking for $4,000 January through April, hoping that by May 1st will be moved. And as I told you last finance committee, the finance department has some savings in our health insurance account because one employee chose the buyout versus coverage. So I can provide $4,000 from the finance health insurance account to cover this expenditure.
And so, Jenny, we're pretty confident. Am I muted? We're pretty confident that we're going to be able to have the new website up and running May 1st.
I would like Carrie to answer that question, if you don't mind, Carrie.
Not at all. We are fairly confident, yes. We had a phone conversation last week with Revise and the programmer that is working on our sitemap, which would have honestly taken the largest chunk of time. He feels that we have a very strong and adequate sitemap, that he doesn't recommend many changes to that. So that will cut down on time. We're now moving into the building phase, so they'll do an initial migration. At most, we're looking at another month or so, provided everything goes the way that it should. So there's a built-in cushion there.
Okay. As long as you feel confident.
I'm as confident in them as I can be.
Okay.
With what they've provided us information-wise.
Good.
Or
Thank you,
so
Carrie.
that I'm worried about.
It's what,
Carrie,
Scott?
question.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Scott. Did I cut you off?
No, go ahead.
I can't say I know exactly what a sitemap is, but and you said that it doesn't need much work. One thing I think we all agree upon is that navigation of the current website has gotten to the point where it's very difficult for people to find things.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a sitemap, but if that's due to the sitemap, then I would say it does need a lot of work.
No, he said that he's taken the time to review our website. He feels that our sitemap is clear and cohesive as far as where things are located. The sitemap is essentially the filing cabinet. This is where you go to find this item. This is where you find this item. He feels that our issues primarily stem from the way it's organized within that filing cabinet. So the design of the website and the implementation, it's not intuitive enough. And he feels that the design that they've put in place, cleaning it up, it sounds absolutely silly that something as a color scheme would make a difference, but it does. It draws the user's eye to a different location. So he thinks that, and he strongly recommended that, leaving the site map as it is cuts down on time. They'll migrate over. We can adjust as need be, but he doesn't see us adjusting much as far as the map itself is concerned. It's the layout and the user experience that they'll focus on.
Okay, I'm just concerned because many things are not intuitively placed where somebody would intuitively find them. I know myself, when I go to look for something, I'm often have to check 4 or 5 different places before I find it in a place I never thought it would be. And if I have trouble, I can imagine what, the everyday citizen, who looks at it occasionally. So I just don't think we should, I don't want to sacrifice a month's time and not make sure that we do everything we can to make this as easy and as intuitive to navigate as possible. Because I think current website, not by poor design, it's just that over time, over the last 5 years, every time you, and this is probably normal, happens with any complicated website, every time you add something new, it winds up getting put in a new place, and then something else puts in a different place, and before you know it, the original structure no longer has integrity to it.
Correct. And using that existing site map to build upon and become more focused in where we're directing people will definitely resolve that.
Thank you, Terry.
Mayor, I could be the test on that new web page because I can't surf our old one. I can't find anything to save my life. I have to call and ask.
I think that's a common, that's common. I mean, it's not intuitive, things are, you look for, if you look for something under planning commission, you don't know whether to look under city clerk, under planning commission, under boards and commissions, and so on. It's very difficult. So I just want to make sure that we use this opportunity to do everything we can to make it intuitive. In addition to looking pretty.
Is there any committee member that objects to funding this budget budget transfer? Hearing none. Ginny, I think you're good on that one. If you want to explain the second one.
The second one, Greg may have to jump in. Greg, if I say anything incorrectly here, please feel free. But they want to install an oil water separator at the DPW garage, and this needs to be installed and connected to drains. The estimate for the tank is about $6,200, and other materials it's about $2,000. The 2021 budget had $1,000 included to go towards this project, but obviously it was more than anticipated. So the request is to transfer $6,500 from the street administration purchase services to the materials and supplies code, and then about $700 from the water administration purchase services to the water supply code. So that should cover the entire project between the general and the water funds.
Right. And so, Greg, feel free to jump in. The question that I had on this was the $1,000 that was in the budget for this year to replace this, to do this actual work?
The $1,000, if that's what was in there, I'll go with Ginny's number because I don't have it in front of me. That must be right. That was to replace floor drains, and in researching, figuring out what we really needed to do, we realized we needed to expand that scope a little bit, and so that's why it's going to cost a little more.
Okay. So do we have an existing oil water separator right there?
No.
Okay. So this is a new piece of equipment that we're putting in.
Yeah. It should be there.
Is there any other questions or comments or concerns from committee members? Mark, you're good? Okay. We'll move that up to full council.
Thank you. The next part of my narrative is just to update you on some various information. So Len, is it okay if I move forward on that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, sales tax. The January sales tax was received. The total was a little over $406,000. This is a reduction of a little over $25,000 from last year, or 5.9%. But if you compare it to January 2019, it's only a reduction of $8,277, or about 2%. So I think these figures are good. It shows that we're moving in the right direction. And the February sales tax, I also want to forewarn you, is going to have a New York State mandate reduction to it. It's a New York State law that was passed to share the sales tax with the medical facilities to help fund their loss due to COVID. The city's expected reduction is approximately $28,000. So we will definitely have a reduction when we receive our February sales tax. The state aid, the city received the balance of the 2020 state aid of a little over $334,000. This payment resulted in the city's 2020 state aid being reduced by 5% instead of 20%. And it's $111,593 lower than the 2020 budget. So I was very pleased that we ended up with 95% of our state aid for 2020. What 2021 is going to bring, we do not know yet, but we have already included in our budget a 20% reduction from what we normally get. Update on the FEMA claim for the COVID-related expenses that we incurred in 2020. I periodically connect with our representative to see the status of our claim, because every time I get online, it hasn't moved. And she said that she does not know what's holding it up, but it's still in the review area, and there's nothing that she can do to move it forward. We just need to wait for it to get through the different members that have to sign off on it. I was previously informed that they're questioning about $18,000 of the expenses that I had included on the $73,000 claim. So I will keep you updated as I get more information on that claim. I just didn't want the committee to think that I had forgotten about it. So I just wanted to give you an update, even though there's not much to update on. CARES Act funding, the 2020 Airport CARES Act for $20,000 was received on March 25th. And it's already been reported to the committee, but I just wanted to remind you that the city was also approved for an additional $13,000 for 2021 for their operational needs. When we meet $13,000 worth of expenditures, I will coordinate with McFarland and Johnson to also submit that claim.
Jenny, if you don't mind me just having you pause there, I just also wanted to let the council know, or the committee members know, that we had approved a little over $17,000 for the 2021 to 2022 engineering fees. That's our contribution towards the engineering fees for the parallel taxiway, and through the $1.9 trillion relief bill, those monies will not be necessary from the city. There'll be 100% FAA sponsorship of that engineering for 21-22. So the city just saved an additional $17,000.
Thank you, Len. I believe that's the third airport grant that we now have received 100% FAA funding, if I'm not mistaken. So it has saved the city for the local portion match. The annual water and sewer billings, as reported at the last finance committee, we mailed out a little over 3,800 water bills. And as of March 26, we had received almost 1,200 payments, which is over 31%. And to date, as of that day when I was writing it up, 105 customers have used the online payment option. And also some customers are utilizing partial payments. So I'm happy to report that these changes have benefited some of our customers. Also, for customers that have agreed to a payment plan during 2020, they are not being charged any late fees, and that is due to the New York State moratorium law that was passed. That expires as of March 31st. So any unpaid balances as of March 31st for those people that are on the payment plan will start to incur the penalties again. Property taxes. We are almost at the end of our third month of collecting property taxes. And as you're aware, the city has a contract with the county where they make us whole and we collect for the first 4 months of the year. And then as of May 1st, we turn over any uncollected property taxes. There were a little over 3,400 property bills mailed out for 2021. And to date, 3,151 of them have been paid, which is a collection rate of 92.4%. Total dollar-wise, we've collected almost 7 million of the $8 million levy, which is 86.9% of the levy. And as I said, as of May 1st, we will turn over any unpaids. In 2020, we turned over 200 bills, 2019, 210, and 2018, 180. So I think we are right on course with our average collection rate, and very pleased that, again, people have been utilizing the online tax payment option, and collection is going very well there also. So do you have any questions? Mark?
Thanks, Jenny. You kind of hit what I was going to ask, but just to clarify, so that 92.4% collection rate is on par with where we've been in other years, or is it slightly better, worse? Where is that?
It's really right on average.
Okay.
When I go back to the previous years, because I'm doing it as of a certain day, so but it's right in line with previous years.
Great. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome. And then that's all the updates I have for the committee for tonight.
So Ginny, I'm looking at the agenda. I think the last thing we have is the Catella well line.
Well, yes, I would like Greg to lead that conversation, and then I will jump in on it.
Sure. So the Catella well line is a raw water transmission line, runs from the city Catella Park well to the water treatment plant. A good portion of this, at least half of it, roughly half of it, runs in Oneonta Creek in the concrete section of Oneonta Creek from Catella well to from Catella Park to Center Street. This past winter, we had a pump failure at the Catella well. So normally we pump 24/7. We're pumping water. Obviously, in the winter, when you have a pipe above ground, you need to be moving that water for it to not freeze. Unfortunately, what happened in this case, the pump failed. Our water plant staff recognized this and went through the procedure to open up the line to drain it. But a valve did not hold, unbeknownst to us. And that line filled up over time and then froze. And as a result of this, most of the line, at least half of the line that's exposed above ground in the creek, is now failed. It's broken in many places. And realistically, it's not something that we can just replace the sections that have specifically cracked. It's something that's going to require replacement of the entire line within that creek, which is nearly 3,000 linear feet of pipe. This is a 12-inch diameter cast iron pipe. It's on concrete pedestals in the creek now. What we've been doing in the meantime is researching what other options we have to replace it. We're certainly not going to replace it with a cast iron pipe. That's not the pipe we install anymore, and it's also not the ideal place for it in the creek where it can be impacted by whatever might come down the creek in a big storm. We've had some issues with that in the past. This isn't the first time that it's froze. Obviously, in the past, a couple times before I was here at the city, just when I've heard it's frozen, broken in isolated areas, but nothing like this. So obviously, it's a big problem, and it's going to be an expensive problem to correct. So we're working now as quickly as we can to evaluate the options for replacing that section. We also need to evaluate the section that's under the ground. We don't know for sure that that's in good shape, or if there's sections of that might have froze as well. We need to get in and actually physically inspect that. First, we're going to try doing a pressure test. But basically, we got a little bit more work to do over the next few weeks to narrow down the scope of work and then determine the best option for replacement, whether we go back in the creek the way it is now or similar to that with a pipe along the edge of the base of the creek, or if we try to open cut and or directionally drill a new underground pipe, taking a new route from Catella up to Center Street. The pipe itself was installed when the new plant was built. I think it was in the mid-50s, so it's a 65, 70-year-old pipe. around the end of its useful life as it is. Obviously, it's not something that we had on our capital plan to replace in the next 5 years, but it is something that, you know, it's got its useful life out of it, but certainly not something we're excited to report. But wanted to bring it to your attention now that we've kind of started to narrow the scope down. We figured out kind of what happened, and we still have some more work to do before I can put together a cost estimate. So I'm not going to throw any numbers out now, but it will be a significant cost.
Okay.
And
Is there any
then-
other questions from committee members?
Glenn, can I
Sorry,
add?
Jenny.
Yeah, I just want to add that we are in contact with our insurance company to see if it will be a covered damage. So as soon as we know from the insurance company has put the claim into NYMER, we're just waiting to hear back.
Okay. I have full confidence that you and Greg will come up with several options for us. So thank you, Greg, for updating us with that. Appreciate it. Does that conclude all the items on our agenda? I'm looking at it. It looks like I think we've covered everything.
I think so.
Hearing no objection, we'll conclude our meeting. Thanks, John.